Hey guys, what's cracking? Godsman here, and welcome to one of the feature matches of Deluxe Round 1. This feature match is going to be all about Dragons of 4, that being specifically the Dragon of the 4 Flames down the bottom bearing the blue gloves versus the Dragon of 4 Seasons bearing the red gloves in the top corner. That's right, over in Block F, it's going to be Mazcoon versus Yugioh. How are we doing tonight, fighters?
Good.
This will be a game, trust me on that much.
And that, I could not agree more. And with me, once again, I've got guest commentator Shira over here to watch over the battle and give his commentary on how things proceed. How are we doing, my fellow co-host?
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how our fighters shall perform today. Hopefully they give entertaining for us.
You gave me too much credit.
How humble of you. Alrighty, let's go ahead and kick it off. Are you ready, fighters?
Define
Yes.
ready.
Let's do it then.
Stand up. The
Vanguard.
Vanguard.
Julius ドラコキロ
Estacion!
私はたドロテプから1枚を捨てて10個にライドジェネレーターをセットしターンエンド
Running over the Jewel Core and setting energy generator, nothing more to do right now. Very easy early start, but that's to be expected when going first.
Alright, Mike.
Interesting play you see from Drajeweled playing draws.
Draw triggers. Yeah, it must mean that they're definitely hungry for the pieces there. That could come into factor against a deck that has a lot of stun ability like Estacion, so it's not a bad move on Yugioh's part. I'd imagine that was the reasoning for it.
Most common triggers were fronts, if I'm not sure.
No god
Alright. Maz is going in for an 8k, and there's a no guard from Yugioh. No trigger was checked on the drive check, and neither on the damage check. Ooh, but losing a Bifrost to the damage zone. That's a key card.
私はたドロエナジーチャージテプラ1枚を捨てて12にライドそうから10個を超え
Alright, going for the typical ride line. Got Jewel Core out. Looks like it's going to the front row for a more aggressive, attack-oriented offense there. But will he be calling more to supplement the offense?
バイプラを超え
Oop, there we go. Taking full advantage of going first and calling out AK bases versus an AK base. Swing with Vanguard first for 10.
12でアタックドライブチェックノートリガー
Diagon here is good. Very, very good.
Ooh. Once again, we got dry drives and dry damage checks. A soul charge with no trigger. There just does not seem to be triggers in anywhere but drop zone right now. Now it's 8 on 8 again.
No guard.
Oof. And that damage check is equally as dry.
Guard.
It's a really good card to match his damage check as well.
Oop, guarding with the grade 2. And interestingly enough, as long as you have an Estacion, it gets 5,000 to shield. But unfortunately, there's no blast token there. So it doesn't get the 5,000 shield yet without blast token. But because it needs to be rode upon in order to get the blast token, it wasn't quite there yet.
Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and discard this.
Sure, that wasn't enough, right? Because Maz guarded for 13 and Core was also 13, no?
Oh yeah. Instead I'll just guard the grade 1 then and then take that one just to make it easy.
Alright.
Alright.
Alright, riding to grade 2 Estacion. Grade 1 Estacion now triggers, and he can now get the blast token. The T-posing chicken nugget, as some of our fellow commentators and also competitors like to call it. It's got many names, and none of them are particularly endearing.
Do not the token.
So how familiar are you with Estacion and also Drajeweled, Shira?
Drajeweled, I'm more so familiar with that. The blast token deck, not really. I've saw that this is one of the a really good deck coming into the meta. With a deck like Drajeweled, I'm curious to see how this would go. Blast token can certainly put out an early game due to calling tokens from the Baromotions that we saw from before. And with Blast token scaling the numbers up, it can definitely be a tough matchup for the Drajeweled player.
Yeah, for sure. Not being able to be retired is also going to stop the Ignis. Now, it looks like we've got the Great G order coming to play right away. This is one of the linchpin orders of the entire strategy, and with its skill by Soul Blasting, if you've got an Estacion, it can be placed as a plant gauge for your blast token. So think of Grand Fia, but blast token takes in a very dramatically different direction. Then it looks at the top 5 cards of the deck in order to call a card, but if you didn't call, you can get a plant token instead. So no matter what, this thing is going to get you something on that board. Alright.
Probably didn't call any cards in deck, but was able to call a plant token.
That might indicate that they still have a lot of triggers and whatnot in that deck there, and they just couldn't call anything of value. But calling the Boro Boro Mushrooms means that they can get 2 more tokens out there. This is a very good early game. Except now they're going to be converting from Blast Token. Now, Blast Token can consume 2 up to 3 cards in order to get a draw, and for each one, that's another gauge. And gauges are really important in this deck because you can hit a 5k to front row for every quantity of 3 cards in the gauge. However, you need a grade 3 or greater Vanguard in order to do it, so that's not going to matter for this turn.
Alright, we are going to go ahead and we are swinging for 15 at the van.
No Garo.
Draw check! More mushrooms!
Damage check. No trigger.
Ooh.
Okay.
Still dry on both sides. Interesting game state so far.
Definitely means the late game will definitely be impactful a lot.
Yeah, I would imagine. I think I can agree with your assessment there, Shira.
Mahoryu Drajeweled ni Rairo.
And there comes the Mahoryu Drajeweled. This grade 3 card has been around ever since set 7 of the Overdress era, so it's a very, very old card, but still, you get a lot of good supplementation cards to try and increase its card advantage. Let's see what kind of board we'll be able to see from Yugioh on this first grade 3 turn. Soul charging 1 and drawing a card. Soul charging the grade 3, which is huge for this deck because getting the grade 3 in the soul is the one grade that is particularly challenging in order to activate Drajeweld's skill right away on turn 3. So the Bifron's coming down, that's huge right there. Bifron's being able to CB and look at the top 3 cards of the deck. Okay, Lysisgur goes to the soul, a card goes to the hand, and we're dropping a Nocturzio to the drop zone. Alright. Overall, seems like a really good top 3 check there.
Ooh, also gets the Lysisgur.
Gets a Litho for a call and a draw. Alright. Things are definitely forming up from here. Ooh, calling the Zagon. Zagon allows you to soul charge 1. Not a great soul charge there, but if he can reveal the Drajeweled, he might be able to get another call. But will he be able to reveal that Drajeweled? It doesn't look like it, so he's simply going to swing for 10 to start with.
Well, it's just a question of will Drajeweled use its skill here?
Let's see.
To soul blast 4 cards with a different name.
It is interesting because he decided to swing with this rear guard first, and because he didn't use skill of this Zagon here, it's safe to assume that Varpula won't be able to activate either, so that Zagon's not going to be restanding.
But the Rockagur clone, Lysisgur, can still restand anyway.
Right, that's probably one of the biggest things about this card, because it doesn't have a great restriction on its restand. Now, it is still viable if he wants to go for the 4 or more. Soul economy is generally not that big of an issue. Yep, okay, and now we see confirmation that he's going to go for the Soul Blast 4, so he's fully intending on the 4 attack turn to try and beat down Estacion. But Maz is still doing pretty well, taking 1 damage and guarding the other one. Now let's see what he's going to do about these other 2 attacks that are incoming. Alright.
Yeah, Varpula can in fact still move it into soul to draw a card without revealing a Drajeweled from your hand as long as you soul blast 4 more cards.
Can't reveal.
Very, very.
He can't reveal a card, unfortunately, so without that there won't be any restand. Getting the draw though is still pretty nice, which means that even at base it's still a decent card.
And this is swinging 21, right?
Yep.
21 on 1, which is a pretty bad number for him, but here we go. We've got Elmadir coming on down. One of the interesting facets about the Estacion ride line is that you do see some Soul Blast from Estacion in the early parts of the ride line, so it's pretty easy to get around to putting those cards in the drop zone for an early Elmadir. So Elmadir's coming down. Ooh, along with a twin cast Protect for an extra 10k. That's a 30 shield, putting him at 30,001 to 21. That's almost enough to get to a 2 to pass, but it's not quite there.
I'm going to leave it at a 1 to pass.
Ooh, just leaving at a 1 to pass. Very risky, but he's seen a lot of triggers from our opponents so far, so I can see why. And the risk pays off. A very astute guard from Maz is able to clutch up on the bare minimum guard.
Some 10 coming at you.
10 coming at him. Oh, and then that's going to be a critical from the hand to guard that. So total damage is going to be 2 to 3, with Maz having 1 more damage, but now being able to go straight into Estacion.
Yep. Now discard and go straight into Estacion!
Ah, there we go. Very fun name to say as always. Okay. Let's see what Estacion can do to try and build back the board here. He's got a lot of resources on hand, but it's going to come down to whether or not he can get a sufficient amount of card advantage, because if we can see the Drajeweled Ignis come down on the following turn, although it wasn't revealed, so there's a real chance that it may not come in time. But if it does happen, then Maz might be in trouble. It's always the biggest fear when you have to go second against Behemoth like Drajeweled. Okay, the Vital Blast is going to be played once more. Let's see if we can tutor off the top 5. Looks like it's got to be the Autumn Dragon. This one's always a really good one to hit for, because Autumn Dragon allows you to get a free plant token when placed. Furthermore, Autumn Dragon has a really good drop zone skill, so even if it gets retired at some point, it can always keep coming back for the counterblast. Alright, got the plant token coming out there, and now we've got Estacion skill coming up. So Estacion's primary act skill says if you have a blast token, you can counterblast 1 to generate an extra gauge in the form of a token for your blast token. Then you can look at the top 3 cards of the deck and put a card into hand. But if you have 6 or more gauge, you can look at the top 5 instead. So good old Burrito Dragon here is all about tutoring and resources.
Being able to check the top 6 is very, very strong, because you also don't show your opponent what you add to hand, which is also very, very important.
Yeah.
And you shuffle the deck. So unlike Eva, that it would reverse, basically, you would try and reverse that kind of way. You just shuffle the deck, which is really, really good.
Yeah, looking at the top 5 just for 6 gauge is pretty easy to go for. So they added a card, and there's the Boro Boro mushrooms that we saw on a previous drive check coming on down. So we got even more tokens coming into play. Blast token's going to suck up some cards, so I'm going to get more into its gauge total, but how much are we going to go for? It looks like we eat 3 again, so Maz has now reached the threshold of 9. Still, not a lot of cards in hand right now.
15, if I'm not wrong.
That's exactly right. Front row's going to get an extra 15. Now, not a lot about Estacion actually requires the opponent's grade to be anything, so we shouldn't see too much dramatic scaling just because Maz went second. Still, this deck is incredibly stable and has a lot of tricks up its sleeves. Let's see what Maz can do here. He's got 3 cards in the hand, and he's got 3 slots on the board, but what is he going to commit?
Energy generator, very, very good. Got a bit more resources that you need.
Energy generator for a draw. Let's see if we can get him something good. Ooh, all right. Okay.
I think the main question here is what Blast Dragon Maz will call from his Vanguard effect. Because they all do a very good variety of things where you have one that gains a crit, you have one that stuns your opponent's rear guards.
Ooh, okay. Interesting choice by Maz there. Despite drawing your card, he doesn't call anything else to the board. Simply swinging the Estacion and getting rid of 2 gauge in order to call a card. But what would he call here in this case? There's a really good number of options here. Another Autumn Dragon get a plant token mid-battle, but it's not going for a multi-attack, it looks like. So he simply wants to build back the board. Is the Winter Dragon perhaps the play here? It's got a good defensive skill online. It seems
Maybe.
like he's thinking, yep, looks like it's the Winter Dragon indeed, calling from the deck. Now, the Winter Dragon has a skill as long as you have 5 or more gauge to where it can't be chosen by an opponent's card effect, and it can get a critical, so he meets the requirement for this. Furthermore, Winter Dragon has a skill from either the hand or the rear circle to drop itself in order to give an extra 10,000 power defensively for your Estacion for the battle. Ooh, and now activating the skill of both the Vital Blast. Now, there's a dual utility with this order card, which means they can give 5,000 power to a unit when it's been discarded as a gauge. So now he's got 2 doses of extra 5,000 power to give to a unit of his choice. Let's see here. One of them seems to be going to the Autumn Dragon, and the other one appears to be going to his Winter Dragon. All right. It's funny to see the winter and autumn be here because we're in the exact opposite season right now, where we're entering between spring and summer. How about that?
No, God.
What is your favorite season?
Ooh, my favorite season has to go to autumn. I love the holidays of autumn and just the overall atmosphere. It's a really nice temperate season too. All right, getting into the twin drive on a no guard, it's Estacion and the Summer Dragon. So once again, we're looking at some pretty dry checks here.
this definitely will impact the late game. We will definitely see a lot more Juggers coming in.
25 to the van.
Ooh, 25 on Vanguard. That's a 15k guard. And he coughs it up with a critical trigger.
28 with a crit.
28 with a critical. Alright. Guarding and intercepting going up to 33, and that wards off that attack. A bit of a lukewarm turn from Estacion for the time being, but it seems Maz might have a plan brewing in the background, but we'll have to see what exactly that is. In the meantime, it's back over to Drajeweled. He stands and draws.
Well, we see an is the real question.
Alright, let's see. Calling the Lithosagur, which means there's no Ignis scene here. That's too bad. Okay, calling a Varpula and now activating the Axe skill of Drajeweled for the price of a counter plus. Ooh, that's a bit of a risky play. Oh, and it backfires on him. Unfortunately, Drajeweled soul charges 2 cards to the same grade and no grade 3s, meaning that he doesn't get a draw, nor does he have the ability to activate his Soul Blast 4 skill. And by using the last counter blast, even if he had it, he couldn't stand up any Lithosargor. This is looking pretty bad for Michijul here. His deck might have bricked. What's he going to do from this point, though? It seems like both of our players are in a very awkward and stalled out position, so it's going to come down to who can more expertly navigate their way out of this rut. What do you think right now, Shira? Who do you think has the advantage in this very awkward game state?
I think in this game state, I'd say Maz definitely has the more advantage here. Having a 10k shield on the board as well can be really helpful. Maz also being at 3 damage.
Which is true.
Good, because if that was an Ignis turn, you don't really want to be any higher than 4.
Alright, looks like it's 21 on the Vanguard with the Twin Drive. Oh, Winter Dragon's going to activate its skill here to drop itself for an extra 10k. Maz is not interested in letting that be an attack target. Oh, and now here comes Summer Dragon as well with the 5,000 shield online. That's a total of 2 to pass on a Twin Drive.
Yep, 2 to pass.
The pass here was very
Ooh, draw trigger. Okay, drawing 1 card, and now Michijul's got a choice. Is he going to try and give to the rear guard here, or is he going to try and take the risk? Nope, he gives it to the rear guard. With all the triggers seen, it's very wise to go for it. And the Ignis has been confirmed. There's a very real chance now that he'll be able to try and end it on the next turn if Maz doesn't do something quick. Alright, going 18.
18 are done.
No guard.
Alright, hitting a no guard here. And the damage check is going to reveal a critical trigger. That's going to shut off Lithosargor from being able to attack on the Vanguard there. But attacking on the, he's going to have to attack on the Autumn Dragon. But as we discussed in the previous turn, the Autumn Dragon can resurrect itself. So this, unfortunately, doesn't do too much for Michijul. And now the turn passes back over to Estacion. We saw in the previous Twin Drive that it drove check into another Persona ride. So we can be guaranteed that this turn will be a lot more impactful than the last one. And there it comes, Estacion Persona Raido. Yeah, I agree with your assessment from earlier, sure. I think that the later the game goes on, the more it could potentially favor Estacion because it's the much more stable of the 2 decks here. However, the Ignis not coming down is probably a big proponent of why Maz is able to do as well as he is at the moment, because he too wasn't able to capitalize on any early advantages. Now, Estacion's going to activate its skill. With more than 6 gauge, we're going to be looking at a top 5 to add any card of choice to the hand shuffle. I must say, though, board-wise, Michijul definitely has more or less the setup that they want to go for. If the double Lithosargor is able to stay there unimpeded, that's going to be more or less the A team to go for.
But the Blast Token deck has ways of stunning their rear guards, which is should be very crucial, I think, for this matchup. Being able to stop some attacks coming out of Drajeweled. Definitely really good. It's also forcing him to use more cards out of his hand.
Drajeweled also tends to have a problem with the CB, because with no counterblast up there, it's going to need to take a risky play and go to 5 just to be able to properly afford for this. And with higher damage being on Maz's side right now, Maz is limiting the ability of the opponent to heal out and thus get a vicarious heal from it, or a vicarious countercharge. Oh, okay, Blast Token is coming down. Blast Token is going to eat 3 for another draw. This is a pretty typical play here for Maz, and what this means is that even after discarding 2 Plant Gauge tokens, there are going to be a total of 9 under the Blast Token for 15k no matter what. That's pretty impactful. Okay, and the Matus gets called down right now. When Matus attacks, if a unit was placed on the rear circle for the drop this turn, which is the Autumn Dragon in this case, it can Energy Blast 2 to stun a rear guard and also prevent it from intercepting. And Matus will get an extra 5,000 power. This is a very, very on-brand play for Maz because, as many of us know, he is a bug boy. Alright, and now we're going to play the Vital Blast. Interestingly enough, opting for the Vital Blast prior because Vital Blast calling is going to fill up that field anyway. Going into the gauge for even more gauge, another 5,000 power when he gets discarded here. Ooh, and calling another really strong booster from the top 5 there. Maz is looking good and ready to rumble. Okay, Estacion's got the no vacancy sign at the moment. He's got a total of 25, and now it's going to be up to 30,000 to that front row because he's hit the magic increment of 12. And there's down the number. I think it's time for battle. Let's see, Drajeweled in total has 9 cards in the hand to try and ward off this upcoming turn here with 3 damage to go. There's a possibility he can definitely survive this, but it's going to take a lot to bring himself back to the winning side of the board. All right, Matus' skill, immediately going for the stun on the Lithosagur on the right. And with Matus getting an extra 5,000 power, this is going for a massive 55 against Drajeweled. Oh, Drajeweled taking immediately and being rewarded with a defensive critical trigger to try and help him ward off the future attacks here.
40.
All right. And now a very skimpy 40k on Drajeweled. Very sensible choice here, considering that one of the main attack patterns of Estacion, and it's a tell from this attack pattern, is that it can call another Autumn Dragon to generate an extra token mid-battle for 5 attacks. Ooh, and another defensive critical from our boy Yugioh here. Maybe Fortune will be able to bring him back into this losing race here. Let's find out as Estacion swings in big for 48. Alright, Estacion is going to be getting rid of 2 gauges there, including a Vital Blast, which means an extra 5,000 can be given to a unit of choice. Oh, interesting. He's going to be going for this instead and stunning the other Lithosargor. Oh, that is not going to be a happy camper because, as we know, both of the other Lithosargor have been guaranteed to be in that soul right there, which means that there's no way to tutor out of the soul. Then neither Litho is going to be useful for the upcoming offense. A very, very pragmatic play from Maz. PG coming down to ward off Estacion, but the front trigger is there to pressure right back. Oh, he's not letting up pressure whatsoever. All right, then. Now it's 35,000. And the over trigger comes into play. Oh, huge moment here. It's going to demand a PG or GG from our boy Yugioh here at the bottom. Getting 2 draws and also another 10,000 to the front row to critical to any unit. That is just massive. The one upside for Yugioh is that by taking the damage early, he not only gets defenses, but he was also able to deny the heal ability of Bless Favors. So Maz didn't get quite the full benefit, but this is still very threatening. All right, and here comes a PG or GG number, and the PG is thrown down. So now the turn can pass back over to Drajeweled, but oh boy, if I was in Yugioh's shoes, I would start consider packing up, but not him. He was chosen for Deluxe for a reason. Let's see if he can remind us of that. He's going to start off the turn with a stand-in draw. All right. Uh-oh. All right.
Here we have the
ザガの声、ザガのスキルでそうチャージ。そうからリトサグルを超え。
Oh, okay. So he managed to hit a Zagon of Fate to try and get back one Lithosagur, but soul charging a heal trigger means that he's basically got no other alternatives here. He's got to bet it all in this turn. Thankfully, he's able to make anything into a restander thanks to the power of Varpulus. So despite the double stun from Maz here, it looks like it's still going to be 5 attacks. All right, calling down Nocturzio and getting the counterblast. This will get him some extra advantage in cards and soul. Michi's looking really good right now. Of course, getting back another Ignis into the soul, meaning that it'll be a viable target for the Soul Blast 5, and another Lithosagur, so recycling back what he had to overcall just now. All right.
Being able to easily overcome the fact that his 2 rearguards were stunned, stopping him from being able to attack and restand them, definitely shows good Drajeweled player.
Yeah, Michijou didn't even seem to really freak out about this moment right here. As we could see, his tonality suggests that he more or less had a backup plan just in case, right? So this is a good showing from Drajeweled here. Estacion's a very intimidating deck, and now that he managed to hit into the Ignis turn, things are going to be very problematic for Maz here. All right. So we're gonna start off pretty big. This Little is quite the big camper as well. Gonna need 10,000 power because of his soul count. So he's gonna be getting a total of 43 on the Vanguard. The question though is that this is where Drajeweled becomes a very tricky unit, because if you were to take damage here, that defensive power would just get shut down by Drajeweled. There's a very well-known fact about it. But Maz is gonna have to take it anyway, which is unfortunate. But no defensive would have been checked regardless, which is a little bit unfortunate. Okay. Now we're going to be going for what appears to be 38 on the Vanguard, so it's a little bit easier to guard this attack. Now, what will Maz do about that, though? Okay, looks like we're going to get a double intercept for 15. All right, demanding another 15 from the hand. Oop, and doing so with the Soul Front. Very nice. All right.
ヴァンガードにアタック。スキル発動。異なるグレードカードを5枚ソーラスすることで、後列がリアガンのすべてを退却し、自身をクリティカルペスティチ。さらに、エスタシオンのパワーに0にする。バルプロのリササグエンのスキルで全熱をスタンド。
And he's declared it. Here comes the 5 attack turn. All right.
You really went out of your way to remember all that. I'm actually impressed.
He was chosen for a reason. He's showing us now the full power of Drajeweled on this turn. Okay, in total, looks like it's going to be a 36 on a 0, which is a very strong number, and it's got a critical in 3 drives there. Very, very scary number. Oh, and PG comes down. Probably the one thing that can stop a super scary number like that. Discarding mushrooms is the cost. All right. First check is a no trigger. Second check is an over trigger of his own. Adding back any card of his choice from the drop zone to the hand. This is huge. Uh-oh.
Look, Josh, when I told you that this would be the late game, I meant it.
Yep. Oh, man. Adding back a PG and drive checking a PG. Oh, my God. From the jaws of defeat, Drajeweled man to pull its way into a commanding lead. Oh, but there is a PG being revealed here, looks like. All right.
35?
35, asking for 40 shield total. Does Maz have it? Oh, Maz is calling down the heal trigger now with an extra 15,000 to its shield and another 15, putting him up to 40 against 35. This will be enough to pass the turn back over to him. Despite that over trigger Michijou. Oh, this match is definitely living up to the hype, ladies and gentlemen. We're into the super late game. Both players being able to weather the storm that each other has brought against one another. Okay, and let the Segura is forced back into the soul though. This is a little bit bad because now without any counter blast remaining, and also doesn't seem to be any more tutor cards, there's not much that Drajeweled will be able to do for a follow-up. But let's not think about follow-up, let's think about survival, because Estacion just hit another Persona ride. Getting 1 draw and another 10,000 to the front row. Let's see what Maz can do with 2 cards left. All right, Vital Blaze Blast, very nice card to see here, being able to get him another card off the top 5, and also, should he see Invaders at some point, that can lead to another superior call on top of it. Very good cards to use in conjunction with one another. Okay, calling the Autumn Dragon off the top 5, good call in order to get another token here. All right, Autumn Dragon going to go for superior call. So Shira, what would you say here as we see Maz starting to build back his board anew? Who would you give it to at this stage of the game? Because things have changed since a few turns ago. Both of these players showing their very best.
Things have very, very much changed. Quite impactful for both players, I'd say. Knowing that both the Drajeweled player has 2 PGs in hand is very reassuring. With having no CB, Drajeweled can at best only perform 4 attacks now, unless we see a way of counter charge.
Countercharge
for
could
Maz?
be coming from the Dark States cap, but it's not that likely.
Not many Drajeweled lists play it. I don't know if Yugioh is any different. I'd say at this point it depends how Maz hits triggers, and that would definitely give it a steering.
Okay, looks like Maz is going to go in for the tech. 14 to the gauge is a very interesting number here, because even after the discard 2, that'll be an extra 20,000 in the front row, and then 30,000 because of Persona Rights. So going to go in for 40k here. Yugioh definitely has a lot of cards to guard for these upcoming attacks here, so it shouldn't be too threatening, but it will still demand a lot. Oh, okay, throwing down the Tiskar, and there appears to be just enough energy remaining to try and get an extra draw. Ooh, and this is actually putting me into a reminder territory that Yugioh's deck is looking quite low right now. Let's see, guarding with 5, 5, and 15 for 25. Ooh, and another 5 on top of that. That'll be enough to guard this attack, putting him at 43 to 40.
Another 40.
All right, he's going to go for 40 again against Drajeweled. Ooh, throwing 2 more triggers down against him. All right. And then here comes the big guns, Estacion riding into combat.
Discarding the 2 Vital Blasts.
Yeah, this is almost certainly going to be demanding the PG that we saw earlier, or one of them, in fact. We know 2 are out.
Yes.
Yeah, 2 are out there in the hand, but the rest of the cards there, mostly a mystery for Maz.
Calling the
Ooh, calling the Winter Dragon, a very fascinating play. Maybe Maz is not emboldened on this kill and he wants to get a good mix between survivability and also pressure here. The critical is rather redundant at this stage of the game, so he must be going for the defensive skill that we can see from the Winter Dragon. Alright, and here comes a perfect guard thrown down from the heavens. Alright, Estacion's huge booty is not going to matter too much now. Discarding an Ignis, very good discard target here. Easy card to put back into Soul. Check 1 is a no trigger. Maz just sees nothing there. Ooh, but the second check is a heal trigger. That is a difference maker. All right, healing any card of his choice here, and oh boy howdy, does he have some good targets to go for.
I think what also makes this even more impactful is this heal is a 20k shield.
Yep, this heal's really good in this matchup. Drajeweled Ignis, even though grade 4 means extra triple drive, Maz saw to that by getting a 20k shielder since he's now at a lower grade Vanguard at all times. Oh, and there's the second PG coming down, so no surprise that the turn would be survivable regardless, but having to discard a card regardless, and discarding the other PG, he had a third PG in the hand, so now that's all PG seemingly out of the race at this point. Okay, but Drajeweled has one more turn to finish it, but with no counterblast left to go for it, and having already gotten rid of a Varpula at that point, there's not much to be done here. Alright, Drajewel's just going to call down and go into battle phase. It seems to be just a simple 3-attack turn against Maz, but will he be able to settle it with just 3 attacks? If Maz can guard 2 of these, it's over. Alright, and now here comes Drajeweled Ignis. One last time, it's time to hit the music because it's going for a Soul Blast 5, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a total of 21 plus 15 for 36, yet again, against 0. Total 0. And it's got a critical and 3 drives. There's just enough cards left in the deck. And the Elementaria has been thrown down with no discard cost because it's a triple drive Vanguard. Ooh, but the front trigger is going to hit right back to keep the pressure going hard against him. Alright, second check is no trigger. The fateful third check, it's a critical trigger. That's going to be bad news for Maz here. Can he survive this upcoming one? Alright.
Can safely take 1 attack, but he's forced to guard the other one.
Alright, it's all going to come down to this. Yugioh's triggers has gotten him this far. Oh, and he's going to be attacking the rear guard to try and reduce survivability. Okay, very smart play from Yugioh. He wants this one attack to be the one that counts for it all. Alright, 38, 48, 58. That's a lot of pressure. Will he be able to guard this attack? What do we got here?
It's 58, right?
Yep.
Alright, let me do my math real quick.
30. Let's
Oh,
see. It should be, it looks like it's a total of 23 plus 25. That's going to be 48. It's 58, which means that Maz needs to cough up 60 shield total in order to stop this attack.
I think what's also kind of important here is Maz has a twin cast in his drop.
Yeah.
He does have a twin cast in the drop zone, which has been there since ages ago. And we already have confirmation of a few cards. All right, there's 15 there, which is going to be given to Estacion. All right, an extra 20k there. Estacion is now at 48. Which means he's going to need just a little bit more to get to, or not 48. He's, let's see, so 15 plus 20 is 35, 50. All
35,
right.
45.
Okay, he just needs a 10k shield and he can get there. And guarding intercept and showing the skin of his teeth, he managed to deny Drajeweled Ignis's lethal attack. Oh boy, howdy. This has been a match to remember, everyone. All right. And with that said, Drajeweled Ignis has no choice but to let it go pass back on the other side of the board there. And it looks like this may very well be the end. With virtually no cards left at his disposal, what can Yugioh do here? And it looks like yet another Persona ride from Maz. He is relentless in his pursuit to end this with bludgeoning, brutal force. Drawing one card and giving another dose of power to the front row. That plus the token is under 30,000. Estacion is nothing if not consistent. But no counterblast is left, so there's very little board that can be brought to bear against the Vanguard. Simply swinging on Drajeweled. Ooh, a very smart choice, as Drajeweled has no ability to recycle back cards. So come the draw for turn, the triple drive would mean a deck out for Yugioh. And Autumn Dragon is going to be superior called by discarding 2 gauge, which means another plant token, so it's going to be 3 attacks. That's a no guard from Yugioh. Let's see the twin drive. Check 1, it's a no trigger, and the check 2. It's another heal trigger. No heal, but that likely doesn't matter. And the damage check is anime finish. Very well done to both fighters, and congratulations to Maz and Estacion for taking victory in this feature match from Block F. Congratulations to both fighters for fighting here, and thank you to the audience for checking out this stellar match between two very expert fighters here doing their thing with decks that they both love. Do you have any comments on how this match turned out, my fellow commentator Shira?
This fight could have turned out either way. That drive check for Drajeweled was very, very crucial. It basically was a make or break, I believe. But having the all blanks, you were locked at 3 attacks, no counterblast. It basically wrote its own fate.
Yeah, this one definitely came down to a game of stamina, and Estacion just had the superior attrition game going into it. Drajeweled had a very, very crucial couple of areas where it just wasn't able to quite clutch it up. The first grade 3 turn, even though it did get him a lot of resources, used up a lot of CB, and come turn 4, he wasn't able to use Drajeweld's skill at all, much less ride Ignis, which was a huge tempo setback there that allowed Maz to capitalize in the later game there, it was really smart of Maz to try and play conservatively. And as many of the viewers and we also saw, when Maz was given an opportunity, he tried to get Persona Ride whenever he could, meaning that he always saw towards a much later game here. That's a very, very fascinating strategy. It's very bold strategy against the likes of Drajeweled, but he was very confident in his ability to outplay in this matchup, and given many of his cards, such as the very seal triggers that he had, he definitely planned ahead for the Drajeweled Ignis fight. Very well done. And as a quick aside from both of our fighters here, if you guys would you like to show off your decks to see what thought process you had running into this game?
My thought process while going to this game, I'm not going to reveal my deck because I'm pretty sure my entire deck has been seen at this point.
Fair enough.
My thought process was Ignis is a card. It is going to come out whether I like it or not. I will be playing these heals. We will see what happens. That is literally that was my only game plan. Which, they did come up. I'm actually surprised that I actually ended up having situations where they were useful. But if it wasn't for the fact that Ignis brings me down to 0, I probably would not be playing the heals. But regardless, Yugioh, you were an amazing player. I love the fact that you remembered all the ride chants, all the lines. You put in way more effort into the presentation than I did, and I respect you for that.
That much is true. Alrighty then. And now with that said, I'm going to go ahead and call that the end of this featured match for Block F. Good luck to all the other fighters in this block and every block across. And as I said before, we're going to have a couple of the feature matches in this round, so definitely look forward to that, unless this ends up being the last one uploaded. I'm not quite sure because this is past me, not future me. And with that said, if you guys are looking for more content, then definitely stay tuned because Deluxe is just getting into the swing of things right now. So like, subscribe, and notification bell if you haven't already to stay tuned for the rest of the Deluxe matches from here on out. And with that said, take care and God bless y'all.